You probably think you know what a millionaire looks like. Maybe it's the guy in the tailored suit, the influencer sipping cocktails in Dubai, or the tech bro on a podcast talking about mindset. But here's the truth no one wants to say out loud. One of the most admired types of rich people is also the most dangerous. Not because of what they have, but because of what they teach others to believe. And if you're following that path, even unintentionally, you're not building wealth. You're setting yourself up for collapse disguised as success. Before we dive in, I need to ask you for something real. This channel is getting close to a milestone that means a lot to us. Every subscriber gets us one step closer to that goal. But more importantly, it means you won't miss any of the mind-shifting content we're creating here. The kind that cuts through the noise and gives you clarity instead of confusion. So if you believe money should come with meaning and not just marketing, hit subscribe. You'll be glad you did. Now back to the problem. There are 4 kinds of millionaires, and only one of them is truly dangerous. But here's the twist. It's the one most people try to imitate. The flashy one. The visible one. The one that looks like freedom, but hides a trap. What makes them so seductive is also what makes them so destructive. But before I show you how that trap works, I want to introduce you to someone. He's not rich. Not yet. But he might be copying the exact behavior that's keeping him stuck. And that's where this story begins. Jake is 34. He works a steady job, makes around $55,000 a year, and lives in a quiet suburb just outside Denver. On the surface, there's nothing extraordinary about him. But every evening after dinner, Jake scrolls. Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. He doesn't just watch, he studies. Watches how the rich live. Jet rides, watches, rooftop apartments with panoramic views, and without even realizing it, he starts shaping his goals around those images. He doesn't want wealth, he wants that. But here's what Jake doesn't know. Most of the people he's watching aren't wealthy. They're leveraged, sponsored, performing. The rented lifestyle is polished to sell you a dream that isn't even theirs. And Jake, unknowingly, is building his self-worth on a pile of borrowed aesthetics. He upgrades his car, not because the old one broke, but because the new model felt like a status badge. He stretches his credit to book a trip to Miami, thinking, this is what winning must feel like. But when the statements arrive, the numbers don't lie. And yet, the behavior doesn't stop. Because what Jake is really chasing isn't financial freedom. It's visibility, validation. This is where the trap sets in. He's imitating the surface of wealth without building any of its foundation. And the worst part? Jake is not alone. Millions are doing the same thing, fueled by a daily dose of illusion disguised as inspiration. But it gets deeper. Because the richest people Jake scrolls past don't even live like that. And that's what we need to talk about next. The biggest financial mistakes often don't come from bad math. They come from bad models. And Jake, like so many others, fell into the most seductive model of all: visible wealth. It's the kind you can photograph. The kind that earns likes, nods, envy. But also the kind that rarely lasts. This version of wealth is built on optics, not substance. New cars with 7-year loans, designer clothes bought on credit, vacations paid in monthly installments. And the dangerous part? It's socially rewarded. No one applauds the guy who maxes out his Roth IRA, but show up in a leased BMW and suddenly you're doing well. What makes this trap so pervasive is that it feels like progress. You're spending, moving, upgrading. But financially, you're stuck, or worse, sliding backwards. The illusion of growth masks the erosion of stability. And unlike traditional debt, this one doesn't scream. It whispers, slowly tightening around your future until choices disappear. There's a reason this model spreads so easily. Because it's everywhere. Most people don't learn about money from schools or mentors. They learn from what they see. And in a world where attention is currency, flashy consumption becomes the lesson. Quiet accumulation? That's invisible. And in the age of the algorithm, invisible doesn't go viral. But there's something most people miss. A group that plays a very different game. They build wealth in silence, let their investments grow quietly, and live like nothing's changed. And the contrast between those two paths, one loud, one quiet, is where everything shifts. We're going there next. Because understanding that contrast might be the most financially important insight of your life. Wealth wears many disguises, and once you strip away the noise, you'll see it tends to fall into 4 distinct profiles. Each one reveals a mindset, a method, and a risk. The mistake is assuming they're all equal, or worse, imitating the one that feels most exciting instead of the one that builds real freedom. The first is what I call the builder. This includes the quiet millionaire next door, the saver, the real estate investor, the franchise owner who reinvests profits instead of flaunting them. Their strategy is long-term, grounded in consistency and math. Index funds, rental income, controlled lifestyle inflation. These are people who let compounding do the work while they avoid drama. Then there's the gambler. Crypto investors, startup founders, athletes. They build fast and high, but at enormous volatility. Their fortunes rise on timing, innovation, or talent. But they can vanish just as quickly. The gains are real, but so are the emotional and financial crashes. This path rewards boldness, but it punishes those who aren't prepared for its consequences. Third is the steward. These are heirs to wealth or professionals in private equity. They didn't necessarily start from zero, but their challenge is different, preserving and expanding what already exists. Think trust funds, family offices, careful allocation. Their danger isn't recklessness, it's apathy. The system is structured, but the risk is losing control by disconnecting from the money itself. And finally, the performer. Influencers, creators, those who turn attention into income. On the surface, it looks like ultimate freedom, money, travel, audience. But underneath, this path is unpredictable, algorithm-dependent, and mentally exhausting. Burnout, inconsistency, and identity tied to public validation create a fragile foundation. This fourth path, the performer, is the most dangerous. Not because it can't generate wealth, but because it teaches millions to chase visibility over viability. It encourages people like Jake to equate followers with freedom and aesthetics with assets. And the consequences of following that illusion? We're about to see them play out. Not in theory, but through a real contrast that changed 2 lives, permanently. Gabriel and Jake started in the same office, same job title, same salary, same shared complaints about rent, gas prices, and not having enough left over at the end of the month. But their choices diverged sharply, and for one of them, the cost was invisible at first. Gabriel was drawn to the glamour, online courses promising passive income in 30 days, flashy influencers showing screenshots of 100K months. So he dove in, started an e-commerce business with borrowed money, upgraded his gear, paid for ads, and waited. At first, the numbers spiked. Sales rolled in. Validation felt real. But underneath, the math never added up. Returns, shipping costs, Churn rates, all of it eroded what little profit there was. Instead of pausing, Gabriel doubled down, took another loan, changed niches, rebranded. Meanwhile, his personal expenses rose to match the lifestyle he thought he was building. New apartment, faster car, better wardrobe. But it was all floating on future success that hadn't arrived and might never come. Across the hall, Jake did something quieter. After realizing the image he'd been chasing was bankrupt, he pulled back. He automated investments into index funds, read books instead of scrolling. He bought a duplex, lived in one unit, rented the other. And while his life didn't look flashy, it began compounding in ways Gabriel's couldn't. 5 years later, Gabriel is exhausted, in debt, living with roommates again, still chasing the next launch that might change everything. Jake? He's not rich, but he's free. No debt. Cash flow from rentals, a portfolio that grows whether he works or not. He skipped the performance and built the foundation. That contrast isn't just about strategy, it's about mindset. One pursued visibility, the other pursued ownership. And over time, ownership always wins. But the deeper question is, why do so many people follow Gabriel's path in the first place? To answer that, we have to talk about something deeper than money, something that sits quietly behind every financial decision and determines who rises and who stays stuck. For many people, the desire to get rich isn't about freedom. It's about recognition. They don't want wealth. They want what they think wealth means: respect, admiration, relevance. And this distinction, subtle as it seems, defines the entire trajectory of their financial life. Social media has blurred the line between being successful and looking successful. The platforms reward aesthetics, not structure. A post showing you bought a Rolex will travel further than a quiet update about maxing out your 401k. This creates a powerful, invisible pressure. If no one sees your success, does it even count? But real wealth doesn't crave witnesses. It grows in silence. It thrives on discipline, time, and delayed gratification. The problem is, that path doesn't offer dopamine hits. It offers slow progress. And in a culture addicted to speed and spectacle, that feels unbearable. Morgan Housel, author of The Psychology of Money, said it best: saving is the gap between your ego and your income. If you need the world to know you're winning, you'll overspend to prove it. If you're content to win quietly, you'll outlast everyone. Gabriel craved recognition. Jake craved independence. One got applause, the other got options. So here's the deeper question. When you think about getting rich, what are you really after? Security? Time? Legacy? Or is it something more fragile, like validation, envy, or revenge? Because if your financial goals are rooted in emotional wounds, they will sabotage you. And if you're not brutally honest about what you're chasing, you'll keep mistaking applause for progress until it's too late. But it's not too late yet. The shift can begin with a few sharp questions. That's where we're headed next. Not theory, action. And it starts with a mirror. There's a pattern. Everyone wants to be rich, but few stop to ask, rich like who? And the answer to that question silently shapes every financial decision you make. It determines what you buy, how you invest, what you tolerate, and what you chase. So let's bring it into focus. Think about the last 3 creators, mentors, or profiles you followed for financial advice. What do they emphasize? Flash or foundation? Do they talk more about assets or aesthetics? Are they building something sustainable or just selling a moment? Now turn the lens inward. If your income doubled today, what's the first thing you'd change? Would you upgrade your car or your equity? Would you move to a luxury apartment or finally pay off your debt? That first impulse reveals everything. Behavior follows belief. And beliefs are often absorbed, not chosen. Jake only started shifting when he realized the rich he admired weren't even financially stable. Gabriel never asked. He just copied. And by the time the bills arrived, the damage was already done. Here's a short filter to reset your direction. Are you buying things to impress people whose opinions don't change your outcomes? Do you understand how the people you admire actually make and keep their money? Are your habits based on visibility or on viability? This isn't about guilt. It's about clarity. The difference between temporary momentum and long-term wealth often starts with these silent choices. And the faster you become aware of them, the faster your trajectory changes. Because every day you delay clarity, you're not just wasting time, you're reinforcing the wrong blueprint. But if you can see that blueprint now, there's still time to redraw it. And that's where we close this story. Not with theory, but with a shift in identity. Jake never wanted to pretend. But pretending is easy when the entire culture rewards performance. And it took him years to see that his real enemy wasn't external. It wasn't the influencers. It wasn't the system. It was the version of himself that believed the shortcut looked like success. That version still lives in many people. The one that scrolls late at night thinking, I should be further ahead. The one that upgrades before it invests. That prioritizes applause over ownership. That wants the reward without the structure. And if you don't confront that version, you can read every book, watch every video, follow every tip, and still stay stuck. Because money doesn't just follow logic, it follows identity. And until your identity shifts from performer to builder, from spender to investor, nothing changes. The real danger isn't copying the wrong millionaire. It's becoming the wrong version of yourself. One that sacrifices freedom for visibility. One that forgets wealth isn't about what you show. It's about what you can survive, sustain, and pass forward. So if you've watched this far, you're already doing what most people won't, questioning the script. That alone puts you ahead. Share this video with someone who might be chasing the wrong kind of rich. And remember, Gabriel wasn't broken. He just woke up too late. You don't have to. You still have time to rewrite the script. And if you do, years from now, your wealth won't need to be seen. It will simply be there, quiet, durable, real,